there. 6 o'clock, Captain Third. Call to order the agenda for the town of Elliston Beach, September 10th, 2020. It's our regular town council meeting, and it is now 6 p.m. Councilman Moore is going to offer us the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Councilman Moore.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Kind and gentle Heavenly Father, once again we come before you to ask your blessing and guidance to us and for this meeting. Help us to make good and sound decisions that will move Elliston Beach forward in the direction of your will. Be with all of us as we navigate these unusual times we find ourselves in. More than anything, thank you for your son Jesus and for the greatest gift of all, and help us to never take our eyes off of that. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen.
The minutes need to reflect that in attendance on council in person are Councilman Moore, Councilman Kaiser, Mayor Darby. Attending by phone are Councilwoman Hornsby and Councilwoman Smythe. First order of business is approval of the regular council meeting minutes of August 13th, 2020. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the regular council meeting minutes, August 13, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion, amendments. If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let the vote show that it was a unanimous vote. Okay, under Starfish Awards, Patrick Powell, I do not see him, so we will just give you his award, and you will have the pen for him, Ms. Argus.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We like to recognize our employees at certain times of their service to the town. So Patrick Powell has been with the fire department for 5 years of loyal service. He will get this certificate and a pen showing 5 years of service. And Ms. Harvey, actually, you take care of that.
Yes.
Under other proclamations and presentations, do we have by conference Mallory Coffee from
Yes,
Keeping
ma'am.
Edisto beautiful presentation? Ms. Coffee.
Hi there, how are y'all? Hey. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you all. Can y'all see that all right?
You might speak up. Let me take Mallory.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank y'all for allowing us to do this virtually. I would love to be in Evanston, as many of y'all know. I was there a couple of weeks ago taking a mini vacation with my husband, but it's still one of my most favorite places in South Carolina. And if we're gonna be honest, so thank you just for a few moments of your
We'll let you get back to your life now.
Y'all have a good day. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
The next order of business is actually old business. Under the state accommodations tax, the A tax request of the Edisto Art Guild, art in public places, to an amount of $9,605. This item was deferred at the August council meeting. Although it appears that most murals are painted on permanent surfaces, Aiken, South Carolina provided information about using removable 4x8 PVC panels that are not permanently affixed to buildings. They used a galvanized strut system. This past couple of weeks, since we deferred this, I have been talking with the Edisto Art Guild. And we have been looking at modifications to make it come under cheaper and not permanently affixing anything to private property. And so, a few of the things that we discussed is it would be to be planned and implemented by mutual agreement of the town and the art guild. So we would both have input on it to help to control the cost and the appearance. The other thing is it would be individual panels turned landscape and spaced out, because that business, whoever knows, the gates open in the summer, and the way the fence is built, it requires air circulation for the back of that store because they have so much of the controls for the refrigeration units and different things. That was something you had to consider. Right now, we're looking at either PVC, excuse me, or Duraply. I'm trying to get the weight on each to see which would be the least heavy, but they hold up about the same and they paint about the same. So the difference is in cost. Duraply is about half of the PVC price. So if the weight is favorable, you can go either way. But you cannot put something extra heavy on that fence that will pull it or make it lean. And the advantage of a hanging system with individual landscape panels is not only does it lighten the weight, it spaces them out so it looks like an art gallery. And also the panels can be removed for storms or alterations of the fence. Because with the grocery store changing hands this year, you do not know what the plans are in the future. And that way the artwork can be utilized somewhere on town property or somewhere else. So that's a long explanation, but there you have it. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Edisto Art Guild Art in Public Places request for $9,605.
We're hoping to come in under that. Could you make that just a maximum amount?
Absolutely, for a maximum of $9,605.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion.
Yeah, Mayor, I have a couple concerns here. You said that the materials, you said would be half price if we went with the hanging materials. The PVC would be half the price.
No, that's the difference between Duraply and PVC. Because
Look
ordinarily,
at the,
it would have been more.
right, looking at the ATAX application, your materials are $891.
Right.
What we're
What
paying for is the labor of the artwork is $7,700.
the artists were called and they agreed to adapt the project because they can work on it at their place in Somerville. They do not have to transfer stuff down here and be on site, so that saves the travel expenses. In order to get it not affixed to the fence, you're right, it would require extra materials. But the way they were going to paint it on the fence,
Right.
it would have been, if one panel or something happens to the fence, you've lost the whole effect. So, to me, if you're gonna spend some money, make it count for a while, not just, something that's overnight.
I think my concern is not with, as much with that, it's just the expenditure itself.
Yeah.
About $10,000 in a year that we're, money's gonna be tight anyway going forward. And I'm just not sure that this is
With
a good place. to place.
ATAX funds, though, Crawford,
I
they're
understand that.
very limited as to what you can use them for. And arts and culture is one thing that you can use them for. And I know we can request extra money for the beach nourishment fund, but this is gonna be a small drop in the bucket. We're not gonna be able to use all of it. And this year we have no special events at all.
Down on part, on section 18 of their contest and tax application, it says the mission of the Art Guild, and it goes on, but it says the last sentence, this murals and organizations first venture into providing art for public spaces. We hope this project will lead to others. Is this something that's going to be coming back to be revisited as we go forward? And I guess my next question was then, financially, what part of the finances is the Art Guild going to be paying towards this?
Right, this one, none, because they could not have any of their fundraising projects this year. They were all canceled. In the future, each of it would be individual and it would decision be made by this council. It would not be a permanent permission, construction, if that makes sense.
So how involved will the town be, our part, in the design of it?
I think we have to be 50%. At least, we listen to artistic opinions, but I think the practicality of it and the longevity and the materials and all that, so I think we would definitely have to be in on the design. And I have expressed that to the Art Guild. And you do realize, whatever we do, it still has to go back to Art Guild board. So.
Jane, let me ask, would we be better off, and they be better off if they redo this application?
It would have to go back through ATAX board.
Okay, and that doesn't mean that often.
No, and I think that we are free, and correct me if I'm wrong, parliamentarian, please, that we are free to pass any or none of the recommendations by ATAX. That is entirely our opinion. They are our recommendation board. So, yes, ma'am.
I do think that they had already decided on a design, because they took that to the type committee. So
But they're gonna have to modify that, by not painting it solid all the way down. So that's where I think that
Is that in here, is that the picture of that, the package?
no.
we were not provided a picture as type.
Now, I have seen it, Kelly. You have seen it, Kelly?
Ma'am?
Have you seen the picture?
No, ma'am, I have not.
See, the point is with these modifications, it will have to be modified, in other words, be vignettes instead of one long mural covering the entire fence.
And speaking with different members of the Art Guild, I have gotten kind of a general idea of what they're talking about. And they're talking about having different scenes from the island and town and beach, so that it would be like someone driving onto the island and what they're seeing as they come on down to the beach. So they do have some really good ideas already.
Anything else?
I just think we're being a little loose with the money, when we don't know exactly where it's headed. So.
That's the point of the town working with them, but
Yeah, that's what I was concerned with. I wish we had a definite figure.
Yeah.
I wish it was a lot less.
well, we all do, Jerome. But I think if we're going to do something, in the past, we have cut corners so much that sometimes when you get the final product is not exactly what you wanted. And so I think we need to cut cost, yes, but we need to make sure it is a product that the town can be proud of. So,
And I think it would just be so nice for this to be one of the first things that people see when they drive into our town.
any further discussion? I have a motion and a second on the floor. Refresh my memory if that is not correct.
That's correct.
All right. With those amendments that were discussed and with the understanding that the town and the art guild would plan it together and plan the design together, and that all attempts must be made to bring it in at a lesser amount of money. So I'll entertain a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Four, and one against. The vote is 4-1. Councilman Moore voted against it. All right, under new business. On the Keep Edisto Beautiful bylaws, requesting council changes to the Keep Edisto Beautiful bylaws. What this modification does, it replaces the name Edisto Pride with Keep Edisto Beautiful, and that's an attempt by the organization, the national organization, to standardize all titles, since every town seems to have had a different one, and they want them under the umbrella. And then the number of board members is reduced from 6 to 5. 6 is an awkward number if you put something to a vote. 5 makes a lot more parliamentary sense. So, is there a motion?
I move we approve the changes to the Keep Edisto Beautiful bylaws.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion. Kelly, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, ma'am.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I believe that vote was unanimous on the phone, ladies.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Item B, award of RFB 2020-04 to the Edisto Beach Civic Center roof repair and restoration. And that would go to the Phoenix Group at a cost of $24,410 to be paid from the Civic Center Fund, which is account number 45-7500, .9040. Is there a motion?
I move to award
I move to award RFP 2020-04 SW Civic Center to the Phoenix Group for a total of $24,410 to be paid out of the Civic Center Fund.
Councilwoman Smyer, Councilman, it's hard to hear. Councilman Moore had started the motion.
I'm so sorry.
All right, he says yours will stand and he will second your motion.
Okay.
All right, any discussion? I'm glad to see this coming. It's leaked for years and years and years. Okay, Patty will be too, because he won't be replacing all those tiles consistently.
They are on hold until this is confirmed and done.
Thank you, the floor.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other discussion?
No more garbage can in the middle of the hall.
Yeah, no more garbage in the middle of the hall. Thank you, Councilwoman Norman. Hearing no further discussion or comments, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Show the vote was unanimous, Ms. Holmes. The plantation course at Edisto, and I see Mr. Barber here. Good to see you, Pat.
Good to see you.
The owners of the golf course approached the town with a resolution to solve an ongoing problem with clogged spray heads. Believe it or not, all you that fish all day and never catch a fish are clogging the spray heads that are used to spray the effluent on the golf course. The proposed solution is an Equibah, I hope that's the right pronunciation, filter system at a cost of $37,119.13. The Kiowa Island Golf Course had the same issue with clogged spray heads and they suggested the following filter. This filter, Mr. Woods requests the town pay for or at least fund a portion of the cost. And Mr. Woods is your manager, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. According to the town of Kiowa Island, the town did not pay for the filters installed at the Kiowa Golf Course. The town did install a filter on their end to help alleviate the fish problem for an amount of $14,000. And since you're here in place of Mr. Woods, Mr. Barber, would you like to address council?
Well, I guess, you know, our understanding of how all this works, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but every town, every golf course has a different relationship with the town, with the golf course, you know, as far as the effluent and the treated water. But the way this was set up, I guess the town, we're responsible for spreading the effluent over the golf course up to, I guess, 350,000 gallons a day.
DHEC contract, yeah.
Right. And the town actually owns the pond. So what, I guess our understanding of it is that we're responsible to spray it, but the town's responsible for sending water to us that is sprayable, I guess, or is not a detriment to the golf course or the irrigation system. So we have been working, I guess Iris can tell you, this goes back a ways where we've been trying to come up with other solutions. And we tried to put screening on the pumps that are there now, and all this is to no avail. So I don't know if y'all had pictures of some of the sprinkler heads that had the fish in it to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about, but you know, I can hand those out. But basically what we've come, you know, we started tracking how much time we're spending on cleaning the sprinkler heads out with the fish that's coming over from the town. And it ends up being between the replacing sprinkler heads and the man hours, it's probably anywhere from $1,500 a month to $2,000 a month. So, and it's just very difficult. We got a small staff to begin with, so it's really difficult for us to spend that much time. And we don't always know when it's, you know, when it may be, you see an area that's not growing, you pop that head, you've got all kinds of fish that's clogging it. So it's a constant issue. So I guess, you know, our initial thoughts were that the town would pay for the pump because it solved the issue of the water coming from the town. And in conversations with Iris, we said, well, I guess from a good faith standpoint or neighbor standpoint and try to work together, we agreed that we would pay half if the town would pay half. So I don't really know what Kiowa's relationship is with who owns the pond where the water's coming from. I'm not exactly sure, you know, but, you know, in this particular case, it's the water from the town that's coming to the water that we're trying to spread. So.
And you know, my first inclination is that same problem I had with the Artdale project. I have a problem with, even though it's a cordial relationship, I have a problem installing something on private property. Our end, that's our responsibility, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly something, but let me get a motion on the floor. Is there a motion on the floor?
What are we asking for?
I think the town has a responsibility to solve the problem at our end, you know, at where it comes out of our pond. Once it goes over, it becomes the courses and DHEC's responsibility. So I think we owe it to Mr. Barber to solve the problem at our end, quite frankly. So if I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we solve the problem on our end.
Okay.
Will that get us going? Will that get us started in the conversation? Then I'll second it.
I think that I'd like to see the motion amended to show the purpose of it. That it is to stop particulate matter coming out of our pond and intruding on the sprayers and heads at the golf course.
Could we possibly amend it to where we were talking about putting a filter at our end so that we weren't sending fish to them?
Yeah, that's exactly, that's the purpose of it. I might have used different words, Patty, but you have essentially the same thing.
Okay.
So, the town's, Patty's is much simpler. You may want to substitute that. Do you mind amending your motion?
I'd like to amend that motion to say that we will take care of filter on our end to alleviate any problems coming from our section of town,
From our property?
our property.
So,
All right, I have a motion by Councilman Kaiser and a second by Councilman Moore. Any further discussion?
If I may, I'd like to discuss this a little bit. As far as the wastewater effluent, if I may.
Sure.
please.
So we treat the wastewater sewage that comes into our pond via aeration lagoon, and it is discharged into a pond over on Track M. From there, that wastewater effluent has been treated and is transferred via transfer pump from that pond to a pond on the golf course from which they pump to the irrigation system. Back in 2018, we installed a filter on the intake side of our pump to try to prevent large debris from transferring into their pond. The holes in that filter are about 3/16 of an inch, small enough to prevent large debris from transferring. It cost us about $5,000 to fabricate and have installed via underwater divers to have that accomplished. The problem here is that while large debris is not being transferred, fish eggs will be. When the eggs get into the other pond or are carried by some other factor, be it birds, flooding, etc., fish then grow into their pond and clog the sprinkler heads. So we have addressed the large debris transfer problem on our end previously. So I just want that to be known that we have been working to do this to prevent the large debris from transfer, but it is it's a multi-layered issue there.
Okay. Well,
Can you tell me who was speaking, please?
Patrick Zim,
Thank you.
I think, Patrick, with what we have, then we can certainly work on it. It will give you the leeway with Administrator Hill to look at solutions to the problem. So,
This does get us.
Mr. Barber.
Well, I guess I don't have all the knowledge I need to really have, because I guess they had mentioned just having one person come. So I was gonna have Greg come and also our superintendent, who's been the one really dealing with it. He knows a lot more of the detail, but I guess, he feels like we've been going around and around and around for I guess he says this goes back 4 years now from the first flood. I guess the first flood flooded that pond. And he said ever since then is when all the real big problems started. I guess I was trying to come up with a solution that would be a win-win or work for everybody. I don't want to, I would rather share in the cost and do something that actually fixes it permanently than to have the town spend the money and I'm not participating, but it not be done the way it really needs to be done. I don't know if you guys are prepared to put the kind of pump that we're talking about that would actually solve the problem or not.
The thing is, Pat, when I look at the two costs, if you're considering splitting it, that's about the cost of a filter on our end. It's the filter cost, the first proposal is $37,119.13. If you have that, you get 18. So for 4,000 more, it could be solved on both ends. So that's up to council. But I do think, Pat, that this gives the administrator and Mr. Zim and you and your superintendent the ability to look at it. And what they can do is they can come back and ask for the extra $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it is. with the agreement that you would split. Is that, Attorney Delphi, would that be sufficient?
I would like to say something.
Ms. Hill?
In conversation, when we met with the golf course, I did state I was gonna talk to Kiwanis and find out how they solved that problem. If you talked to the golf course side, I talked to the town side. The town stated they did not put a filter on the golf course because it's private property.
Right.
They put it on their side, so the water going to the golf course pond was treated. And it's the same type of filter, it's a self-cleaning filter.
In other words, I mean, obviously, if the town had a solution and the town's gonna pay for it, that's fantastic. I just don't wanna come away with this. And I'm willing to participate if it fixed the problem, because it really has become just a major, major issue for us. Just manpower wise, and just the idea of, you know, we got I guess that system originally, that whole irrigation system was I think it was an $850,000 irrigation system when it was put all in. And you're putting that at risk when we continue to do this. So I guess I would just ask that whatever we do, it's a permanent solution. If the town has a way to do it on their side, then great, but
It's not gonna prevent you from getting fish in your pond if it gets dropped in by birds and it can still clog your sprinkler heads. It's going to prevent anything coming from the town's pond over to the pond that is managed by the golf course. So that's the difference. It may not solve the problem as to what they would like to see.
It's often difficult to solve problems with Mother Nature. But I do have a motion on the floor and a second that I think is sufficient to have Mr. Patrick, Mr. Zim, excuse me, and Mr. Barber, ours, and your superintendent, sit down and do design whatever we can do within town limits. We're constrained by certain things that we can do and can't do. But to the best of our ability, make sure that we're doing our part, okay?
Yeah, Greg, I'm concerned about paying for something together to private property. We've had that issue. I think this gets us started. I'm sure that with the importance of the golf course to the town, we're going to do everything we can within our power to help you with this.
Have you thought about putting fishing lights, fishermen, renting space for fishermen upstream?
Yeah, I tell you, you know, there's
a minnow shortage at the marina.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, well, and then, you know, the other, we don't, and, you know, Patrick was, last time we met, he was saying he could give us reports of how the water is treated and, you know, bleach and that kind of thing put in there, because that has a huge impact on us too. And, you know, part of that agreement, going back and reading it, is that the golf course is supposed to get reports on whatever, how the water is treated, you know, the readings of the water, anything that's done to it that we end up spraying on the golf course. So you were nice enough to say you'd start giving those to Kurt. So we need to start doing that. But that's the other thing, is I don't want to, with like bleach and these other kind of things that may have an adverse effect on the green, on the grass. So
Well, that's something that I think, I know nothing about golf courses, Pat.
right.
You would not want me playing on your golf course.
Right.
I assure you it would be a hazard. And so I think we'll leave it to people that do know them
Yeah.
with input from the golf course and the town.
And I'd like to also say that, like I said before, the golf course is important to the town. And I do play golf, and I'll tell you, we have a real gym. We have one of the finest tracks, I would say, in this part of the country out here, as far as conditions, particularly the crowds.
Thank you.
This is a fantastic track.
Anything else?
Would you restate the motion for me, please?
No, because Councilman Castro made, I, Ms. Hargis, read it back to you.
Let's see what I got.
All right, so the original motion was to take care of things on our end, and then there was an amendment made that says to keep the particulates from coming through from our pond to the golf course pond.
Right, and so Susan, essentially what we're saying is, if there's a problem that we have created, that we will work to solve it through Mr. Zemp and Administrator Hill. There's some things we will not be able to solve, quite frankly. So that's the motion as it stands right now, but it opens dialogue too, so that we can devise a solution.
Yeah. Now, I also have a problem, spending public money on private land, so that is a big concern for all of us.
Then, hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? It was a unanimous vote, Ms. Hawkins. The convenience station. Okay. The Public Works and Utilities Departments are spending a lot of their time picking up after folks who use the convenience station outside of monitored hours and leave waste on the ground or at inappropriate locations. In other words, out on their site, out of their mind, and into your convenience station. Although our cameras at this site, the one inside the gate is not working and is scheduled to be replaced. So there's no way to cite those in violation right at the moment. Garbage fees are based on a fixed curbside rate, plus the cost to operate the convenience center. The convenience station has had twice the activity as last year, in part due to more folks using the convenience station, more home deliveries from orders related to COVID, and more remodels and home improvement projects. Without taking proactive measures now, the rates will need to be increased again. And no one here has any appetite for increasing rates. It's better to control the flow than it is to try to raise rates. So, Mr. Zemp.
Yes, ma'am. So again, this has been an ongoing issue this year, particularly about garbage being placed outside of the containers that are designed for them and on the ground, overflowing containers, et cetera. About 3 weeks ago, we made an operational decision to close the walk-through gate at the convenience station to try to cut down on people dumping when there's not an attendant there. In the last 3 weeks, the convenience station has been a lot better with regards to trash on the ground and inappropriate containers. I feel that may be the best way to go in the future. I understand that our convenience station is only open 3 days a week, as opposed to other convenience stations in Charleston, Colleton County, which are open 5 to 6 days a week. So it is an inconvenience for residents, but we are spending an awful lot of time cleaning up after people who have no regard for the signage or overflowing containers. And with the amount of money and time that we put in to fix the convenience station in the last year, I believe it would be in the best interest to leave that walk-through gate closed. But we wanted to bring it to you for your insight.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Patrick. We have people that abuse any privilege that's offered. And I wanted to remind everybody in the town, I'm not sure hardly anybody's aware of this, but DHEC, if it gets to a certain state, DHEC can close that convenience station. And then you really, really have a problem. So I think that people need to realize that. And, as the old catchy thing goes, see something, say something. It behooves each of our citizens, if they want to avoid cost and want convenience, to assist when somebody's doing something they aren't supposed to. For instance, landscapers, of course, if they're doing business, anything above normal yard debris is supposed to not be deposited there. Well, you leave the gate open and it happens. Patrick has some pictures that would scare you to see, and we're lucky DHEC didn't do an on-site inspection at that time. Now, why would you throw a mattress and stuff over the fence? You know, that's just beyond me. So our citizens need to be vigilant and do your part, and let's take care of those that aren't. Until then, we're all gonna have to give something up. So is there a motion to approve this as a temporary solution?
What are we approving, sorry?
We are approving keeping the walk-through gate closed right now, when it is not monitored, until we can get a system devised that will make it where there's a possibility we would open up, and in that case, it would come back to us. Okay, but this is a temporary measure. Is there a motion?
Just to get discussion started, I'll make a motion to approve keeping it closed.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion, second on the floor, discussion.
And I was just gonna say, this is, just to make clear, that this is for a temporary,
We've got to find a solution to it, so we don't
and
lose.
maybe get the camera back up and running.
Yes. All right,
Just a quick question, Patrick, has it gotten worse since you started locking the gate, keeping the gate closed? Or did you close the gate because it got worse? That'd be my question.
We closed the gate about 3 weeks ago after the ongoing issue
It got just too much.
got too much for us.
Is closing the gate improved it?
Oh, tremendously. We haven't had an instance since we closed the walkthrough.
Okay, all right, that's all I got.
anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, but I need to ask a question first. I saw the pictures in our packet. Was the grossness only in the yard containers, or was it in all the containers?
If it was proximal to a fence, it was everywhere.
No, I'm talking about before the gate was closed.
It was all containers, Patty.
It's
Okay.
everywhere. We've even had, we have broken carts that we take over there, and we had, moved all those broken carts up against the back fence and flipped them upside down. And they will take those broken carts and flip them up and put their garbage in it instead of walking over to the 8-yard container to dump it. And so my guys, they're having to go out there and dump those garbage containers that you can't roll across the yard because they have no wheels or no lids. They're throwing stuff everywhere. They're leaving paint, TVs, things that we have signage out there that says we don't take. They'll overflow the oil container so that we've had to go out there and we've had to mop up oil with some type of absorbent material. They've clogged up the oil container and just overflowed it, and then they just leave the container sitting there full of oil. It's pretty bad.
But it wasn't that many months ago that we had the whole thing got redone. It looked like.
And they
it was
stopped that one up.
spectacular looking,
And they stopped that one up.
They redid the whole thing, it was fantastic.
Right.
It's already looks like a hurricane went through.
But the new oil container we had put out there, they stopped that one up and it overflowed.
Do you know how long it will take to get more monitors out there?
Well, here's the trick, Patty. We've got to do a multi-prong, because just a TV monitor, a camera is not going to do it, because you have to have someone sit there watching it. Monitoring as,
So that doesn't make it sound like a short-term solution then.
well, there are other things that we can be looking at, Patty. That would just be one facet.
Okay, because the comment that I wanted to make was, we've got renters who are gonna be leaving on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and let's say their cart is already full at the house where they're renting. And typically, they have been told that they could go to the convenience station and put their extra garbage there. In fact, that's what they should do instead of dumping it on the ground. And so now they've lost that option. And so what's going to happen is either it's going to be on the ground, and of course then the homeowner will get another container, I realize that, or they'll take it to a beach access and dump it there. So I just want us to really be thinking about the things that are happening if we close that gate completely.
Yeah, and so that might be another facet of it, Patty, but I have to tell you, if they have filled up 2 trash cans, because every rental is supposed to have 2, then there is a big crowd at that house.
Right.
Anyway,
I would just like to
Iris.
say one thing is that, I think one thing that really, hit me hard was that we have a fixed cost for people to put their garbage at the curb. So every day, if people in all the homes put their garbage at the curb, that's a fixed cost. So we know what the garbage costs are for that. But when people transfer putting it at the curb to taking it to the convenience station, that is an unknown cost for us. And everyone, whether they use that convenience station or not, are paying that cost. And so people who are trying to manage their costs are being impacted by others that are taking garbage to the convenience station and just unloading their house. And that waste can be picked up by Republic at a cost. But everyone shouldn't share in disposing of their household items, and share in the cost of that. It should be something that they pay for individually.
Good point.
Okay, I have a motion second on the floor for the discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous, Ms. Harvis. Moving on, which we've gotten into a lot of discussion tonight, so. Item E, first reading of ordinance number 2020-23 to amend section 78-54 regarding golf cart decals. I looked at this fee that was suggested and I went, oh, no. Request council amend section 78-54 to adding a fee of $75 for a 3-year golf cart decal. That was on top of some other modifications to the golf cart ordinance. So, and those modifications will be limited to property owners. And yes, ma'am.
In the sense of, time, can we defer this till next month?
We can,
Motion for next month.
but I would suggest that before you come,
We'll readdress the fee.
big readjustment to the fee.
Yes.
Move to defer.
All right, yes, thank you, Councilwoman. All right, I have a motion and second on the floor. Councilwoman Smyer, I believe that was second.
Yes.
All right, discussion. Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is deferred and we'll go on next month's agenda. Item F, Aerators Wastewater Treatment Lagoon. Request council approve the purchase of 2 replacement aerators at a cost of $5,900 to be funded from sewer R&R. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the aerators for the wastewater treatment lagoon for a total of $5,900 from sewer R&R.
And Councilman Moore has seconded the motion. Is there discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item G, work authorization number 15, water rate study update with American Engineering Consultants. Request council consideration approval of work authorization number 15 with American Engineering Consultants to update the water rate projections using actual over-assumed data related to the water plant and reduced water consumption during the pandemic. The cost shall not exceed $10,000 to be paid for water and all. Is there a motion?
I would like to move that we defer this until next month so that the town can do some calculations on their own and perhaps do a little bit more investigating before we spend this money.
Okay, yeah, because I've noticed a trend. We know we'll close down next spring.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a trend now. I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion second on the floor. Now, Ms. Seal.
The reason that this was on the agenda now is that it would take them about a month to do the calculations that they would need to do for us to have 2 readings so that we could increase the rate or decrease the rate in December, if we're not gonna meet our bond covenants.
Well, the problem that I think this whole council has is everything has gone up. And if you look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, I know we were down a significant amount of money on gallows when we closed down. Comparing so far from our last reading, which was what, April, May? And we're getting ready to read what, in November? Is it possible that on our own, that we could do a random sampling to see where we are over last year, this time? I know that you have some control over what you're sending out from the plant. So what do you think right now over the summer? Because to me, it's been very busy summer.
What I can do is go back and look at total consumption from last year, given the dates, and then look at the consumption to date this year.
Okay,
Compare those numbers.
all right. Do you have any idea what it would be?
I'm just vaguely, just off of memory, I'm gonna say it's reduced. To what percentage, I do not know, but I can get those numbers pretty quickly.
Okay,
I know that when we did June to June, we were 4 million gallons below
right,
what we anticipated.
right.
And that was when we had the discussion with American Engineering.
But we've done so well in July and August. We've had so many people here that I just imagine that we will have recouped a significant amount.
The question, Patty, is going to be this. We would have to do a big surplus to make up for the deficit during the spring. You know, it won't be enough just to keep us on track. Does that make sense?
Sure, I understand.
Okay, and so we have a motion on the floor
In a second.
and a second to defer. Any further discussion? I'll call the vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? I think that we may need to revisit this before next month, depending on what Patrick finds. So I suggest you hold yourselves ready to make a decision because it is time sensitive, okay? So Patrick, if you'll do what you have said, and we take a look at the entire look at it, then at least we have some starting point for American Engineering. Right now, we have no idea what we're talking about. We know that we lost 4 million gallons this spring. But where we are now, what the depth of it needs to be, or anything else, we need to know. And that needs to be compared to what is actually in the water fund for the bond. So I think this council needs more, but I would suggest to you that it's quite possible that you might need to have a special meeting if we can get that quickly. So the administrator can do what she needs to do. All right, so.
And also, can I say something about that? I think also there's the usage through June, July, and August is relative to last year. Because it's not gonna, I don't think that's gonna be a big increase. We were busy last year, just as we were this year. What we've got to do is we've got to see how we're doing going forward over the next couple of months. See if we can make up for what we're behind going forward. Because I don't think we're going to pick up what we're behind through the summer.
Right.
Is that fair?
That is fair. And I can tell you without a doubt where the issue is going to come down to is in Wyndham. With Wyndham being shut down the majority of the year, just looking at the wastewater rates and flow data, that's where the deficit is going to come from. Just going by the wastewater flow, because they're all on sewer there, those numbers have decreased significantly from
I
last
have a
year.
question. If there's a certain segment that has decreased, is it possible just to increase that segment? That's a question that needs to be researched.
That goes
Come back with
that goes
other
into the bank with the other stuff, the other deferment.
But you understand what I'm saying? It needs to be looked at too.
Right.
If you can identify that area, it's just a thought, but I'd like to know the answer to that too. All right, I'll call the,
We got,
we're good, okay. All right. Tree trimming budget adjustment. Request council approval to allocate $3,000 from convenience station fence, CIP miscellaneous 10-4110.6500 to administration building maintenance, account number 10-4100 .9040 to pay for tree trimming at Town Hall and on the causeway. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the tree trimming budget adjustment.
Have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Under committee vacancies, on the zoning board of appeals, there's 2 vacancies. The terms of Bill Davies and Marcy Cook expired on September the 1st, 2020. An application has been received from Pat Costello. Ms. Cook does not want to serve again. With no other applicants, Mr. Davies is eligible to serve again and has reapplied. So in my mind, that gives us 2 candidates, Pat Costello and Bill Davies, and we have 2 openings. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve Pat Costello and Mr. Davies as, to fill the vacancies on the zoning board of appeals.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Now, I believe Councilman Kaiser got the second in before you, Ms. Lawrence, please, so,
That's fine.
okay. So, I need to call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Ms. Hardy shall notify Ms. Costello and Mr. Davis. Item B, the Water and Sewer Committee. There's 1 vacancy. There's 1 vacancy on the Water and Sewer Committee. Request your consideration approval to advertise for this vacancy. Is there a motion?
Move to advertise the water and sewer committee vacancy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item C, Municipal Elections Commission, 1 vacancy. Ms. Gloria Zella, longtime Municipal Elections Commission chairperson, has tendered her resignation. She is moving. So you request council consideration approval to advertise for this vacancy. Is there a motion?
I move we approve to advertise for the vacancy on the Municipal Elections Commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Ann Ron has been very nice to step up and accept some responsibility for this election. So we all owe her a debt of gratitude, and any way that we can help her, we need to do so. All right, under public comment, Ms. Hill.
We don't have any public comment.
I'm gonna ask that departmental updates be submitted in writing to Ms. Hill and Ms. Hargis for the record, since we're running so late. And we have Mr. Caleb here tonight. So, in the interest of time, I'm gonna ask those to be submitted in writing, please. I already have Patrick Brown on my desk. So, executive session, is there a motion to go into executive session for the receipt of legal advice related to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers from Storm Reduction Project, South Carolina Code 30-4-70A2, And item B, receipt of legal advice where the legal advice relates to a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege related to the Wharton Smith change order, South Carolina Code 30-4-70A2. Upon returning to open session, action may be taken by this council on items discussed during the executive session. Is there a motion?
Move to go into executive session, these two items.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion, and a second on the floor, discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The vote was unanimous. We are now in executive session. I'll entertain a motion to exit executive session.
So moved, Dave.
Have a motion second on the floor in discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No action needs to be taken on any matter discussed during executive session, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion second to adjourn on the floor, discussion.
Did we need to bring people back in before we did that?
Oh, they're here.
They're here,
Oh, okay.
and, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carried, and we are adjourned.